Good afternoon to everybody, and continuation of Adar Sameach. As we say, Mishenichnas Adar Marbin Basimcha, when Adar enters, so then the whole month of Adar, we have to be Basimcha, not only until Purim. And with all that, in Parshat Tisa, we read something very disheartening about one of the biggest failures in Jewish history, of only 40 days after Matan Torah. So we read about the tragedy, the debacle of Am Yisrael worshipping and creating an egel, a golden calf, and the subsequent praying of Moshe Rabbeinu till we got a second set of Luchot on Yom Kippur, but things were never exactly the same. Everybody knows the question. It's a very famous question. Anyone who just thinks about the Parasha would ask this question. Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchot? Why did he smash the Luchot? First of all, he didn't get the Luchot, we can say it in very different nuances. The Luchot are holy, so who gives him the right to go and to break the Luchot? A second way or a second detail in this question is that everybody asks, he was informed of the Chet HaEgel when he was already at Har Sinai, communicating with Hashem. Why is it that he waited till he got down to the foot of the mountain to break the Luchot? There's many answers and explanations given to this, and I just want to share maybe a different one that I've said like on previous occasions. The Chet of the Egel and the reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu seems very similar to the Chet of Adam Harishon and Hashem's reaction to that sin. Let's draw the parallels. The Chet HaEgel came 40 days after Matan Torah, when the Jewish people had reached an unbelievable level of prophecy and freedom. They'd come out of Mitzrayim. They had gotten to the level of prophecy. They heard the first dibrot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mamash per leper. They heard it through prophetic vision, each one of them, each one of Am Yisrael. And then it took only 40 days, and there was this tremendous fall. With afterwards, let's compare the same thing to Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon was born. On the day that he was born, only a couple of hours later, he was in Gan Eden, and he fell and he sinned. So we have a parallel over here. We have the Jewish people on a national scale leaving Mitzrayim, reaching the zenith and the height of prophecy, and then only within a little time, 40 days later, falling. And the same thing, you had Adam Rishon reaching his pinnacle. He has now been born. He's given the breath of life by the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a special neshama. He is in Gan Eden, and within a couple of hours he falls. So that's the one part. The second part of parallel is the reaction to that fall. In the case of Moshe Rabbeinu, what could have at first blush like saved the Jewish people was none other than the Torah. And instead of now giving them the Torah to somehow helping them to extricate themselves from the morass that they had now fallen into, he goes and this like helping line that they've got, he smashes it, leaving them without anything. And the same thing, or parallel to Hashem's reaction on Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon sins. So what's going to, in a way, we would have thought, what would have kept him somehow from falling further? That would be to remain in Gan Eden. Gan Eden is a place not that only that there's nice grass and it's a nice field. Gan Eden is a spiritual bliss where there's all the wherewithal for a person to aspire and a person to reach great heights. So, and instead of it now leaving him in Gan Eden, Hashem does something similar to Moshe Rabbeinu, and what he does is he banishes him from Gan Eden. So the common denominator between these two things is the following: Hashem gives the individual, he gives Klal Yisrael, he gives us a perfect situation, whether it is in Matan Torah, whether it's in Gan Eden, and then we get to a situation where it's impossible. We as human beings, it sounds in a way a very sound message. We don't have the wherewithal to contain this perfection. And invariably, therefore, what's going to happen is what the Mekubalim call is Shvirata Kelim. We don't have the Kelim, we don't have the utensils, we don't have the vessels and the means in order to contain that perfect light. And therefore, what we do is we have to have a Shvirata Luchot and to have a new Luchot. We have to have a banishment from Gan Eden. And what the Torah is trying to tell us is that we in this world, we are given these perfect situations. We aren't able to contain them because of the enormous light. And what we have to do is in this world is to create our kelim. We have to be the ones who create the vessels, of course, with the direction of the Torah, what's considered to be an appropriate vessel, a pure vessel. But we have to create the means in order now to get this light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us. So that's why Adam had to be banished from Gan Eden, because he had to, the utensils that he had, once he had sinned, were no longer appropriate for what he had to do. And the same thing, after Am Yisrael fell at Har Sinai and did the golden calf, the Luchot, the first Luchot, which had special qualities of spirituality, they were no longer suited to Am Yisrael. And now what they have to do is they have to create something new. So they got a second set of Luchot, and the second set of Luchot, without going to all the details, was not as a higher level in their hashpah, in their influence on the Jewish people as the second. So this is the message. The message is we're given always like a perfect situation, a perfect conditions. And we know, though, that we won't be able to have, we haven't got the wherewithal, we haven't got the vessels to contain all this. And what we have to do is we have to make our own, which are on a lower level, but ultimately what they do is they are successful. I think that what sums us all up is Gemara in Masechet Menachot, a beautiful, beautiful Gemara that speaks about that this world was made with the letter Hey, right? It's based on a pasuk that we say every single morning in the davening. We say Ki beya Yud Hey Tzur Olamim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu made Olamim. He created worlds with a Yud and with a Hey. With a Yud and a Hey, Tzur Olamim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you created Olamim. So the Gemara says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Olam Haba with a Yud, Hashem created the Olam Hazeh, this world, with a Hey. And then the Gemara proceeds to explain what is it in the letter Hey that symbolizes, or that is a metaphor, an artistic metaphor, so to speak, in a way, just by looking at the shape of the Hey, for Olam Hazeh. So the Gemara says, because the letter Hey, as we all know it, at the bottom, it's totally open, which means that the Gemara interprets there is always a possibility of a person falling. And then, but the Gemara says that, what the Hey also symbolizes, that if a person does fall, he can come up again. But where does he come up again? He comes up not in the place that he fell, but if he has the Hey, right? Okay, you all know what the Hey is. So in the top left corner in the little space. When he falls over here, so he can go in through there. So the Gemara asks over there, why can't he just? He fell down from the bottom of the hay, the two legs. Why can't he now just come up in the same way? So the Gemara says because he can't. Once a person has fallen, he has to create something new. The opening that was available originally is no longer available to him. He has to do something new. The whole act of tshuva, of reconstructing ourselves, is not that we would try the same thing but with extra effort. Every act of tshuva means that there has to be some novelty, something new that wasn't done until now. And that's symbolized by the hay. You've got this very wide the two legs of the hay in which a person goes down, falls this way. Now, when he wants to improve, he can't just come up with all the effort in the world. He has to go to the side, come through a new opening, which is at the top over here of the hay, and squeeze himself in. And this is what the message of the Chet HaEgel is. That like Adam HaRishon, there was almost an instant exposure to perfection and almost an instant fall. And that could fill up with tremendous cynicism and despair if immediately after having experienced such greatness we already able to fall. So what's everything? What's it all about? What is the world and all that we do worth anything? And the answer is yes, it is, because then the fall teaches us that Hashem wants us to create those new vessels, and that to do something new in which we can come back and we can restore, but something that because we created it will be everlasting. And that is the great message of hope and tshuva that we read about in Parsha Tisa, Dafka before Pesach. So Shabbat Shalom Lekulchem to everybody.